What's up, everybody? It's your boy Corey McNabb back with here's what I've learned. So I've finished Richest Man in Babylon. The last few chapters, pretty much a lot of reiteration, right? Some of the biggest things, saving 1/10. There is a pretty decent chapter about he's a man who's trying to teach his friend's grandson, because the grandson is very wearing jewels, pretty much is like, oh, work is for slaves, and if I had access to unlimited money, I'd just be out, living my best life, spending it as fast as I get it, that type of thing. So he's trying to teach this kid, sorry, I'm in my car, kind of the whole premise on how his grandfather's fortune was built. And it started with a story that this man himself was in fact a slave a long time ago, and learned the value of loving to do hard work, basically. Like if you embrace hard work, it becomes your friend. And because of that, instead of working and breaking his back, moving bricks and stuff like that, he was able to convince a baker that he was a hard worker. And so he got hired by the baker, started learning how to bake, worked really hard, ended up starting his own little enterprise, partnering with the baker. So he started making some money, and he did the same thing of saving 1/10 and all that stuff, right? Recurring things. And over time, of course, he met this kid's grandfather, who was a rug merchant, which of course found out that the kid's grandfather was also a slave, just partnered with his master, which apparently was a common thing in Babylon. And eventually the kid's grandfather bought his own freedom, and this man ended up, his master, the baker, ended up gambling a little bit too much, not being able to pay his debts, and so basically he got taken by another slave trader or whatever. He ended up digging a trench out in the desert, and it sucked. He thought about quitting, but over time, as he thought about all the examples he had seen, there was one person initially that was like, why would I work so hard when I can just shirk responsibility and blah 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 and live the good life, whatever. Last time he had saw him, he was basically like a rabid dog, wanting food, working his butt off, carrying bricks. So he's like, okay, well that's not a good way to go. There was another one who was very defiant and always trying to fight. And he's like, well, maybe if I fight, I can get away or whatever. And then he thought about the last time he saw him, which was being flogged to death and hung up because he had killed a guard. So he's like, nope, that's not a good way. Then he thought about the other guy who had told him that working hard will serve him well. Last time he saw him, he was on his way to having his own farm and doing great. And he goes, okay, so that is the way to do it. So he just kept on working. And then one day a slave trader came back and said, hey, go back to Babylon, basically, because your master has come to get you back or whatever. And when he shows up, it's the kid's grandfather who had bought his freedom and stuff like that. So it was basically the whole story was about working hard, earning, right, your capacity to earn, stuff like that. And then pretty much the last chapter goes into what happens when you're in debt, right? So it gives a story of a guy who wasn't great with his money, ended up owing a lot of people, and then was ashamed and got sold into slavery. So he was put up as someone else's collateral, got sold into slavery, and he became a camel tender for Syrian slaver, right? Over time, he, through conversations with the wife, the first wife of the slaver, came to realize that should he decide to be a slave, then he would live like one. Should he decide to be a free man, then he should, again, live like one. So he decided to be a free man, and eventually opportunity arose. He got away. He got back to Babylon, and met with a moneylender who he had owed money, and said, look, I desire to pay back my debts. And so they came up with a plan. And basically the plan was, again, saving 1/10, living off of 7/10, and then taking the 2/10 and paying back your debtors, right? Just over time, as evenly as possible. So, good lessons. Overall, the book is great. It's a lot about, hey, you've got to pay yourself, right? Got to pay yourself first. Or another way of putting it is profit first. Hint, we'll be coming up to that soon. And just seeking wise counsel. These are my biggest takeaways from the book, right? Okay, so saving no less than 1/10 from what you make. Investing that money that you're saving, okay, not so much just saving and holding it, but investing it into deals you're confident in, people that have done the experienced people, right? Wise counsel. And then obviously protecting your family, setting up for the future, all that stuff. And I think a lot of it can actually go into infinite banking and stuff like that. So that's, it's a little bit different video. I'm not out walking, so I appreciate you guys watching. I'm trying to record this now because when I would record it, I will be at Aspire Atlanta. Guys, if you are going to Aspire Atlanta, I would love to see you there, hang out with you. Of course, I'll be in the sub 2 hat, got the mustache, and I'll try and stand out in other ways too, so that if you're there, let's meet, let's talk, let's do business together. Guys, if you like this type of content, boom, like and subscribe, and that's all. I don't need to tell you the rest, so I'll see you next time.